Hey everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to another episode of the Summer Transition Series. Today we have some folks over at Pratt joining us today, and so we'll be talking about advising and registration. So I guess just some housekeeping before they introduce themselves, a little bit about how this is going to work. So if you haven't tuned in before, these webinars are one-way audio, so you'll be able to hear us. We, unfortunately, will not be able to hear you. Instead, we ask that you submit questions through the Q&A box, and then myself and Nicole, who also works with New Student Programs, will be moderating the session, so we'll ask the questions for you. So if you have questions that you would love to have answered, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box, and I'll let our folks introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lupita Temiquel-McMillian. I'm Dean McMillan. Welcome today. We're very excited to be here.
I'm Ben Cooke. I am, Dean Cooke, but just Ben. And this is my first one, so I'm not as smooth as Lupita.
You can't do it wrong, so you're good.
All right, everyone. Before we get started, feel free to type in your questions. We're happy to answer any advising questions or registration questions that you might have. Before we start out, we want to tell you, though, about two exciting new opportunities for engineering students for the incoming class. And the first one is about a new class that was developed called Thrive. And that class is numbered as EGR 79S. This is a new fall 2019 interactive course that focuses on wellness and community for first-year Pratt students. It is exclusively for Pratt students, and you are invited to enroll in Thrive, again, Engineering EGR 79S. It's a new experimental course at Duke. So in this course, you will connect with other Pratt first-year students and also have a faculty or staff mentor. Together, this group will engage in small group discussions and activities that will explore the knowledge of self, build resilience, create a community, and develop a personal well-being. This is a 0-credit course, and there will be 5 sections of this course offered in the fall. The classes will meet once per week for 1 hour and 15 minutes each. And at the end of the term, the students in EGR 79S will all be invited to a reception with our Pratt Dean, Dean Bellamconda. You can look at Thrive, EGR 79S, look at the full course description and schedule in your Duke Hub. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot those back. We might have to refer you to someone else, but we'll answer to the best of our ability. But this is a new class. Just to recap, 0 credit, and it would be in addition to the 4 or 4.5 credits that you are required to take. So this would be an additional class. And I'm going to hand it over to Dean Cooke here to tell you about the new exciting math opportunity that we have for students who have AP credit, have a 5 on their BC AP exam. Dean Cooke.
So this fall, there's going to be 2 sections of Math 218, 218, sections 4 and 5 that are going to be taught by Sophia Santillan and Brian Fitzpatrick. And they are designing, the Pratt and Math faculty have been discussing how to better serve the Pratt community and rethinking the math requirements for Pratt. And these 2 courses are pilot courses for this year. They will count towards your Pratt math requirement. And one of the pieces that the faculty were excited about was teaching linear algebra first before multivariable calculus. And so that is that's part of this pilot for this fall. The first course, 218, is going to be a linear algebra course, and then that will be followed by a multivariable course for the students who have taken those 2 courses, for either section 4 or section 5 in the spring. And that is also for students who come in with BC calculus credit.
A 5 on the BC calculus credit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are limited seats in that, so it is a first come, first served basis. If you are not able to get into that class, or let's say you don't have the credit to get into that class, don't worry, you're not missing anything. You'll still get everything you need for math. As Dean Cooke said, this is just a pilot that we are running to see, to kind of test our math sequence and making sure that we are able to best serve our engineering students. So no worries if you're not able to get into it, you're not missing anything. But those that are able to get into it will be a pilot group, and we will be looking for feedback all along the way.
Great. There was a question that came up about Thrive. So what are the benefits of taking this new class?
So the benefits, I believe, are going to be just about your own personal wellness at Duke as an engineering student. Just being a Duke student in general, a college student in general, you're going to be in a new environment and experiencing new things as much as you think or as well as you did in high school. This is an adjustment period coming to college, and so this is going to put engineering students together in small groups to discuss topics about wellness, about personal well-being, and create a smaller community within the Pratt community, in addition to connecting you with a faculty or staff mentor in the small group.
Great. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the Q&A box, and we will ask Dean Cooke and those for you. Another question that came up is, what classes should focus students take in the fall?
So for focus students, I'll talk about two different groups of focus students. If you are not in the engineering focus cluster, then the two courses that you should be taking are going to be EGR 101, and then depending on what type of advanced placement credit or international placement credit you have, you would either take math or chemistry. We actually just sent an email out to our Pratt focus students this afternoon, so you can go ahead and respond to that, and we can give you individual advising to make sure that you are in the correct classes. If you are in the engineering focus cluster, I believe it's global energy is the topic, then you are going to be getting Engineering 101 as a part of your focus courses. So your two non-focus courses are likely going to be math and chemistry, but again, that depends on if you're coming in with any placement credit. Go ahead and respond to our email on Pratt advising, and we can make sure that you are getting into the correct classes.
Awesome. On the same vein as placement credit, I guess one is, will AP scores come in time for registration? And if they do not, what is the process for a student to sign up for a class that they presume they'll have that prereq, the AP credit for?
So the registrar has assured us that they will have the scores in from the College Board by early July, before the July 9th and 11th, which are the two registration days. This is a process that happens every year and is partially why registration is in July, because the College Board does that's when the College Board gets the scores out. So yes, we've been in communication with the registrar about that. So that should be in there. In the case that it's not, there are permission numbers that you can get for classes either through the department that the class is offered, or if for engineering classes through either your dean or your advisor.
And I'll just add on to that, we, as long as you requested your scores to be sent to Duke, they will be there on time by the registration windows opening. There have been cases where students did not request that their scores be sent to Duke, and in those cases, you would not have the AP on your record in time to register. So I guess just confirm that you did indeed request your scores to be sent to Duke when you took your exams, or if you're looking at older exams that maybe you took in your junior year or sophomore year, maybe that you have indeed requested those scores be sent to Duke. There is one department, however, the math department, they do not allow students to register for an upper level math course unless the AP credit is on the record. Other departments might be a little more flexible, but I do know math will not. And if that is the case, you have 1 week after your registration window, you have 1 week of drop add, so that if your AP credit comes in a few days later or in the following week, you're still able to register for what you need. And then if it's not in by that point, there is a drop add period at the beginning of the semester that you can change the class that you need or add the class that you need based on that credit getting in.
And the registrar's email address is registrar@duke.edu. So if you have questions about this process, you can email them directly.
We have 2 questions about the AP chemistry exam specifically. So if they satisfy the teacher requirement to be at AP credit, what should they take in its place? And one student specifically mentions like with a score of 4, and another says with like a civil engineering student.
Sorry, I didn't really.
Sorry, so if a student takes the AP exam and receives that chemistry credit,
Yes.
what should they take?
Well, they can take either organic chemistry, which is Chem 201, or chemistry 110. Some students with AP credit prefer to take Chem 110. Those are both options. It depends on, like you said, like what type of engineering the student is thinking about, whether they're pre-health, what are some of the other constraints or interests that they have.
That would give me a good Pratt advising email to send. I think, did you mention civil engineering?
Yeah.
Okay, so for a civil engineer, that would, a 4 on the AP chemistry would satisfy. And in which case the student could take engineering 103, or if they have computer science AP credit, they could take comp sci 201 instead of EGR 103. Might be another individualized question. That feel free to send that question to Pratt-advising. But Dean Cooke is correct. There are other majors that have different restraints on the chemistry AP, and definitely if you're pre-health, that changes things a little bit as well.
Next question, does Pratt engineering require an English credit, or is it just writing 101?
All Duke students are required to take writing 101. So there's no AP English that will give you credit for writing 101, and that's true for both Pratt and Trinity students. And those courses are taken in the first year. But if you do have AP English credit, that can count towards your humanities and social science requirement for Pratt, or in other slots, depending on which type of engineering you choose to pursue.
Is there an additional English requirement for them?
No.
No.
Other than writing 101, no.
There's not an additional one, but if they want to take it, it can count toward the social science humanities requirement, as was mentioned.
Great. Next question is, what are the most common classes or subject fields that first year students take in their first semester?
Well, it's very prescribed because of the engineering curriculum is very specific, and in order to make progress toward graduation and able to meet the prerequisites that certain upper level courses have, pretty much every Pratt freshman is going to be taking math, chemistry, engineering 101, and either writing or engineering 103. So pretty much everyone is on the same boat in their first semester. And it's very common for the second semester as well. There might be a difference of one course based on a major interest, but pretty much everyone's taking math and chemistry and engineering 101.
I mean, is your question, sorry, I think you can't respond, but like for other courses outside of engineering, I don't think there is like one common thing that students are taking. I think it's just each student has their own interest in there. If they're interested in music, they might be taking some music. If they're interested in dance, they might be taking some dance. If their other interests are kind of what define those courses.
All right. Since macro and micro econ AP credits only test you out of one class, but count as 2 credits, econ 22 and 21, does this satisfy 1 or 2 of the 5 SSH courses required?
Well, as of right now, it would satisfy 2. Pratt also has a limit of 2 AP credits in the social science humanities department. And right now, we will count both Econ 21 and 22 as 2 separate AP credits. That might change in the future, but as of now, we will count it as 2 separate AP credits.
But it wouldn't change for this incoming class.
It might.
Oh.
It could.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But and in the Duke Econ department has a kind of unusual sequence of econ courses. Most econ departments have intro to microeconomics, intro to macroeconomics, intermediate microeconomics, intermediate macroeconomics. But Duke has a Econ 101, which is both an intro to micro and macro, and then intermediate micro, intermediate macro. So there's no like 2 intro courses, and so that's why those 2 AP credits only count towards 1 course.
We have a question that came up about the pilot math program, and there are a few questions layered into here, so bear with me. So if a student has a 5 on BC calculus, what is the math sequence if they do versus do not do the pilot program? So how does that differ? Are the pilot courses showing up in the Duke Hub now, and what is the benefit of doing the pilot sequence?
So the sequence would be Math 218. So the course for this fall would be numbered 218. The course for the spring would probably have a different number than 212, but would basically be a similar number to 212, and then that would be followed by a differential equations course. So it would be 3 courses replacing 212, 216, and 353. So it'd be kind of a 3 for 3 replacement. I think the benefits would be that 218, by taking linear algebra first, you would be able to talk about some things in multivariable calculus that you use matrices and reinforce those ideas, and then also go more in depth into some of the linear algebra applications in 218. 216, which is a course that focuses on the linear algebra related to differential equations and introduces differential equations. And so both those options are good. This is a pilot to see if by teaching linear algebra first, there's a benefit to student understanding, also maybe a benefit to the student math experience. And those are the 2 areas that we're kind of piloting.
There was a clarifying question. Does everyone have to take EGR 103?
So everyone has to take a computing course. This is the first year that we are offering an option between Engineering 103 or Comp Sci 201. And the way to gauge which class would you take is if you don't have prior programming experience, if you haven't had any computer science class, if you haven't taken the computer science AP exam, then you would take Engineering 103. If you are coming in with AP for Computer Science 101, have extensive experience in programming already, then you would register for Comp Sci 201. And either of those classes will satisfy the engineering computing requirement that is required for all majors.
For example, for ECE majors who have Engineering 201 as a required course, and have kind of an extensive computing background, Comp Sci 201 is a great choice. And the reason that we're allowing this year is because a lot of students who have had AP credit have felt, especially in the first part of Engineering 103, have felt like they're reviewing that material. And then the second part, which is more numerical analysis techniques, is relevant, but a lot of the AP score also has predicted good success in Comp Sci 201. So those are kind of the 2 reasons.
Good. We have a more general registration question, and it says, how hard is it to get the specific class we put in our book bag? And is it common to not get the class time we chose?
That was the first part of that question.
How difficult is it to get the specific class we put in our book bag? So book bagging.
So it depends on which window you have. There are 2 windows, and sometimes you have to go back to get different sections to get in. Obviously, in the second window, it might be a little bit more difficult, or the section that was your first choice is full, and so you'll have to go choose your second or third choice of sections. One thing to remember throughout the registration process is that because the Pratt curriculum is very prescribed and you absolutely need to have math in your first semester, particularly Math 111 if that's the first math class. So if you're not able to get into that class, or Engineering 101, let's say it conflicts with some other class that you need to take, those are things that the Pratt deans can help you with, and we work closely with the math department in particular to make sure that all of our students have a seat in math. So definitely, you may not get your first choice, but keep trying. If there's an open math section that works in your schedule, you definitely need to take it and get confirmed seat in there. But if there is a conflict or nothing is working out for you, that is a great time to email Pratt-advising, and we will look to see what we can do. We do a lot of things behind the scenes. So after the drop ad ends, 1 week after your windows, then at that time, the Pratt deans will go through all of the freshman schedules, and we will be able to make sure, 1, that you are in the proper placement, and 2, that you're in the correct classes that you need. And if, let's say you registered for Math 111 because your AP scores weren't in, and they didn't come in until drop ad closed. Well, that would be a time where we would say, oh, they shouldn't be in Math 111, they need to be in Math 122. And so we can do some switches like that behind the scenes. So I would say do what you can on your own during the registration windows and during the drop ad period, and whatever doesn't work for you, we will help you behind the scenes and make sure that you get the classes that you need. Like I said, it may not be your first choice. It may be an 8 a.m. class or a 6 p.m. class, but we will get you a seat in the classes that you need.
Great. What's the difference between classes with two-digit codes versus 3-digit codes?
Can you be more specific about the codes? Are you talking like ALP, CZ?
I think I'm going to assume you could type in, whoever put that question, if you have any clarity for us, but I'm thinking if it's like 21, like.
Oh, the number?
Yeah, the number.
Oh, okay.
201.
Sure. Okay, so if you're talking about the number, a 2-digit number or a 3-digit number, it's the level of class. So I guess below 100 and 100 level are more intro freshman level classes, first year classes. 200 level and so on, you get more difficulty. So 400 level classes, seniors are basically taking the 400 level classes in your junior year. You're taking a lot of the 300 level classes, and then same with the 200 in the sophomore year. So if you're referring to the number, that corresponds to the level of class.
Sorry, I lost my thought. We had a couple questions about like double majoring or majoring and also doing something else. There's a question: is it possible to double major in ECE and CS and do a focused program? I'm assuming.
Yes, it is possible. I mean, basically, I would say a significant number of Duke students in general come in with a plan to double major, and some students are going to have to take, more than 4 courses a semester to achieve that double major. But for ECE and CS, you don't have to take all of the ECE required courses and all of the CS courses, because there's some overlap in courses, and so it's possible to get that double major sometimes without overloading. And if you do focus, it depends on what AP credits you have, whether you would have to also overload if you did focus. But yes, the focus courses might count towards your humanities and social science requirements, which you would need for all Pratt majors.
And just to note real quick, one, keep the questions coming. This is fantastic. If you have anything else, throw it in the Q&A box. And then just a quick note, some of the questions are very specific to like individual cases, and I'm not purposefully ignoring you. We see them, they're important, but I would recommend reaching out to what Dean McMillian offered earlier, the Pratt-advising@duke.edu, to speak with someone about those individual cases. So if we don't get your question answered, be sure to reach out to them to talk with someone directly about what AP scores count versus what don't, and what that path might look specifically for you and for your interest area. So I just wanted to address that real quick. We're not trying to ignore you on purpose. Next question is about technology. So what kind of computer do we need, and does this depend on our major?
So, you don't need a specific computer. Mac or PC will be supported here. There are a couple different, a few different criteria that are some baseline things. And I'm actually opening up my computer because I just answered this question for someone, and I believe, so at least 16 gigabyte of memory, and SSD drive is preferred, and there's an i7 processor. I can look up specifically to make sure I'm remembering that correctly. But as long as those three characteristics are present in your computer, either Mac or PC is fine.
At least an i7 processor, I guess. What is that, Intel 7?
I believe
Okay.
so. I know there's i3, i5, and i7, and it's i7 that is the preferred. Yeah.
And we did have, so our very first webinar, Campus Resources, we had a member from Duke OIT, and we talked about computers a little bit. So if you want a more, if you'd like more information about what options you have, or specifically about laptops and those requisites for Trinity versus Pratt, I would definitely check that out. That can be found, the recording of the webinar can be found on the Duke Student Programs YouTube channel. So I would check that out.
And I found what I was looking for. So specifically for Pratt, the Pratt IT recommends that you have at least 16 gigabyte of memory, that there's a 500 gigabyte of storage, solid state is preferred, and at least an i7 processor. So as long as those three characteristics are there, then whatever model you pick is fine.
We have a question about study abroad. Can Pratt students study abroad, and if so, how does that fit into their curriculum?
Yes, Pratt students can definitely study abroad. I think we have something around 20% of Pratt students who go abroad, which is slightly lower than the Trinity percentage, but there are a number of places that have engineering schools, and you can take engineering courses abroad. And I think that's the biggest restriction, is that finding a place, depending on your major, that you can take a couple courses abroad is usually the restriction that maybe Pratt students face a little more than Trinity students. But there are a number of places, Madrid, kind of the Great Britain has a number of places, Australia, there's a program in France, there's a Duke in Berlin program, and there's a few students going to Hong Kong this fall. And if you go to somewhere that students have gone to before, that's the easiest path, because those courses have already been pre-approved, and you can kind of figure out which places have the courses you need. But if you are really, like the group of students are going to Hong Kong, were really determined to go to Hong Kong, and so they had to put in a little more legwork to find courses that would fit, but they did, and they are headed to Hong Kong in the fall.
I just might add, there's also a GPA requirement at this time for Pratt students. There's a GPA requirement in general, but Pratt students have set the Pratt school has set a slightly higher GPA. Right now it's 3.0, so that's just something to keep in mind as you kind of move forward in your career here.
Next question. Currently, Math 218 in Duke Hub is fully waitlisted for all sections. Does this mean that this course is inaccessible for freshmen or fall semester? If so, would Math 212 suffice for the fall semester, given the student has a 5 on Calc CC?
Yes, so the sections that will be for Pratt students are sections 4 and 5, and so those sections I don't think have been finalized the times, so we're in the process of finalizing those times. So that's maybe why you aren't seeing them in Duke Hub, and if we also are reserving those spots for only first-year students. So if it looks like there's a wait list and you're interested, please email. If sections 4 and 5 do exist in Duke Hub, they have a cap of 1 student, just so to prevent non-first-year students from registering. So please email pratt-advisement@duke.edu if you're interested in sections 4 and 5. So it does look like those.
They haven't been created yet.
Yes, so they are not showing up in Duke Hub yet.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yes.
They will.
Yes.
Sure, they will show up. Another question about registration is, there's a student who noticed while book bagging that some class sections are at the same time with the same instructor, but in different rooms, such as ER1L and some lab classes. How does that work?
So the Engineering 101 lab courses are taught by a number of instructors, but it's a technical thing, and it's not something that you spend a whole lot of time worrying about. It's basically Ann Satterback is the director of the whole class, but she is not going to be in all the labs. The labs are going to be taught by a set of engineering instructors, and so that's probably what you're seeing, is that the sections are meeting at the same time, but Ann is not going to be in all those sections. Those sections are going to be led by a host of instructors throughout BME, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and electrical and computer engineering.
Yeah, so and if they're taught at the same time in different rooms, I think I heard that question also.
Yes.
It's just a different section of the class. So since Engineering 101 accommodates the entire freshman class, there might be some multiple sections taught at the same time, just by different instructors in different rooms.
Is there a usual time that students study abroad?
The fall of their junior year is the most popular time. The Duke in Berlin program lets sophomores go in the spring of their sophomore year, and then some students study in the spring of their junior year as well. I was meeting with someone today who is planning to go to Duke in Madrid in her junior spring. So, but the most popular is the junior fall.
Or the summer. There's also summer study abroad as well.
Yes, and there's a Duke in Costa Rica program that is primarily for Pratt students. It's actually Pratt in Costa Rica. And that's during the second summer session, 6-week program. And you can take either a BME course or a math course.
Okay. Next question is, can I do a focus program and take Writing 101 my first semester? I'm signed up for Writing 101 for my first semester, and I got off the wait list for a focus program. So could I be an ECE CS major while doing this?
We don't recommend that. Students in focus will take their writing in the spring semester. So it sounds like you were assigned writing in the fall and then later got into a focus section. So yeah, you should not be taking writing in the fall while you're taking focus.
And we can get you permission not to take, like,
Right.
don't worry about, even if you're assigned writing, if you're in focus, that takes priority. And so you take focus, all the Pratt focus students will not be taking writing in the fall.
Another question about Thrive. Will the Thrive class have any homework or tests, or is it like students going to class?
I believe there will be readings that will be expected of the students to be done outside of class, and then discussions will happen in the class. I'm not familiar if there will be any written assignments. Perhaps there might be some journaling, I am assuming, but I do know there will be outside reading required for the class. I believe all Pratt students will be receiving an email about this, where there will be a contact information that you can answer or send more specific questions to. But as of now, I know there are outside readings that will be required.
Next question, how many credits would you recommend for an incoming freshman to take?
So all Duke freshmen are limited to 4.5 credits. Each full credit class is worth 1 credit, so you're taking 4 credits. If you wanted to add on a half credit, some students are in band or have a lesson, an instrument lesson, or chorus, or they might want to take a PE class or a dance class, then that can be the extra half credit. But first-year students are limited to 4.5 credits. We recommend them at minimum the 4 1.0 credit classes, and not 3 1.0 credit classes and 2 half credits, because really you just won't make progress toward graduation in a timely manner in order to finish in 4 years. So it does need to be 4 full 1 credit classes in the first semester. After the first semester, students are allowed to register for up to 5 credits after that first semester freshman year.
Another question on registration. Do we absolutely have to use the schedule builder when registering?
You don't absolutely have to, but I think it can be a very valuable tool because sometimes it can be a puzzle, as I described, getting the classes that you need to all fit in and finding sections that work with each other. So while it's not required, I think it can be a very, very useful tool in building your schedule. And you can even block out times, like let's say, you're going to work every Tuesday, Thursday morning, you can block out those times, and the schedule builder will help search for classes that don't meet during blocked out times. So I think it could be useful. I'd recommend giving it a try.
Good advice. How feasible is it to major in biomedical/mechanical engineering and global health?
Wow, that's a lot. How feasible is it? I think it's a very full schedule. Just a single major is coming in without any AP credit, which is fine. It's not required at all. But with that, with a single major, a student is taking 4 classes every semester. With 2 of those semesters, you're taking 5 classes. So for a BME, ME curriculum, that goes beyond 34 classes. I want to say it takes, I'd have to look it up, but I think 37-ish, 38 classes to finish that. So you just have to figure out, well, where are you going to fit in those 4 extra classes? 3 to 4 extra classes. That could either be by overloading, by taking 5 classes in a semester instead of 4, by taking summer school. And then when you think about adding on that extra, was it global education? Global health. That's additional classes. So that's very ambitious. I won't say it's impossible. I would recommend coming to campus and learning about those areas, and your interests might change, your interests might just get stronger, and that's something your academic dean can help you plan. If that is the route you're going to go, or if your interests change, or if you want to study abroad, your academic dean can sit down with you and make an academic plan to fit some of these goals that you might have, just so it helps in planning. It doesn't have to be on day 1 when you get here. It can be any time during your first year that you can make such a plan. So I think you'll find once you get here, you learn about so many other areas and you might develop some other interests. So it's good to be thinking ahead, but also I would say kind of wait till you get here and learn more about what you're interested in, and then definitely talk to your academic dean to make that type of plan that can reach the goals that you want.
We had a few people actually mention like specific combinations of double majors or like different minors. So I think.
Yeah, and I'll add, so all of our departments have handbooks. So the ME department, the ECE department, civil and biomedical, they all have departmental handbooks. And all of those handbooks also have templates of what each semester will look like. And they have templates of their major. Some of them have templates with their major along with the second major. If it's something that's been done in the past or has been agreed upon. So if you look in the ECE handbook, there is a template of 8 semesters of what an ECE comp sci major would need to do. There is a template of a BME ME major in both the ME handbook and the BME handbook. So you can look at that template and just see what your 8 semesters would look like as a BME ME major. And then I guess just thinking then if you're also looking at adding global health onto that, you would need to find space in that template where you would fit in the global health classes. It's likely that you could count maybe a couple or a few of the global health classes to count as your engineering requirements, say perhaps as the free electives that you have to take, those could be global health classes. But again, this is something your academic dean can help you plan. But if you just kind of want to look ahead to see what it might look like, I would say consult those handbooks and look at those templates to see what that would entail.
Follow up on the handbook. Are there updated handbooks available? It says online. It says online specifically for mechanical. It's 2017.
Right. So the departments are working on updating those. I would say, yeah, you're correct. The ME department handbook is not updated. So whichever handbook you look at on the front page, it will tell you what date it is good for. So there are some departments who have the 2019-2020 handbook, so you can feel safe that those are the requirements. For ME, feel free to email any questions to us, and we can address those individually. There are a couple things in the old ME handbook that aren't applicable to the new class coming in. So feel free to email Pratt-Advising with any specific questions, and we can definitely help you with that.
So back to AP. Does having AP credit for biology test you out of the natural science requirement for ME?
For mechanical engineering, yes, biology 201 AP credit will satisfy the natural science requirement for mechanical engineering. Yes.
Question on research. Can freshmen participate in research? Is that recommended? And if so, how can you do research as an undergraduate?
So research is definitely recommended, however, not in the first year at this point. For one, there's really not any room in your schedule to do research in the first year, and even kind of in the second year, depending on your situation. We do encourage research, and there actually was a research committee that met all of last year to come up with recommendations on how we can engage more engineers in research and talking about the best ways to, or the best time for engineers to enter that research. Right now, typically engineers don't start doing research until their junior or senior year. There are some students, if you're doing research in high school already, you have something established, perhaps there's some opportunities to continue that. But for the most part, engineers are doing research in their junior and senior year. A huge reason for that is you don't have a lot of coursework under your belt to be able to contribute to some research. In your first 2 years, you're taking mainly general education, foundational requirements, and so you're not getting into the upper level classes or the engineering classes to have some foundation under your belt in order to be able to participate in the research. For the most part, depending on the role that a student would take in a research lab. But there are definitely opportunities. We don't necessarily recommend it in the first year. So once you get here, there will be various information sessions, or you'll be able to learn about research opportunities that you could become involved in. And it can take many different shapes. It could be an independent study class that you take, that you're working with a professor and you have a deliverable, whether it's a hands-on project or whether it's actual research, maybe in a lab. Or if you're able to get a work study job, perhaps that might be a way that you do research. Those cases, you wouldn't get course credit for it. But if it's a job, you would get paid. So there's that avenue to take. And we also have possible summer research opportunities through our Pratt Fellows program. Like I said, there might be some new and exciting things about research come out this year due to our research committee that met all of last year to come up with new and innovative ways to get Pratt students involved in research. So stay tuned on that, but definitely not, we don't recommend necessarily in the first year.
Next question is, if I take a 200 level or higher class that counts as an SSH requirement, does this also count towards the 2 upper level elective requirements for ME?
No, so that's different. So your 200 level social science humanities class is for the social science humanities requirement that is across the board for all engineers. Your ME upper electives are going to be electives that are 400 level and above, and specifically in the ME department. They're technical electives, whereas your social science humanities can be in any of the departments that Pratt accepts as a social science humanities. So those are different. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I answered that question a little wrong. You said upper level electives for the ME. Okay, so ME has upper level electives, and they have ME electives, and they have other electives. So I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. So as I said, there's 2 400 level ME electives. Those are in the ME department. Yes, they have 200, they have upper level electives, and yes, that can be any 200 level plus class. Sorry, I went a long way around and didn't answer that question. So any class that's 200 level or above, and it's a 1.0 credit, that can count as an upper level elective in the ME department.
What is the first engineering technical course, and is it different for different majors?
It is, if you're talking about technical course being the intro course to each major, it is different for each major. In terms of first technical course, I don't know if Engineering 101 could be counted as a technical course. It's definitely a hands-on engineering course. But if you're talking about the intro classes, yes, there is a specific intro class for ME. There's a specific class for ECE, that's ECE 110. The MEs take EGR 121 as their intro class. Civil engineers and environmental engineers take CE 132, I think it is their intro class. And biomedical engineers actually don't necessarily have an intro class per se, but they are taking biology 201 at the time if the other majors are taking their intro class for the most part.
All right, we have a student that says, if I'm coming in with chemistry credit, should I still be taking a chemistry course my first semester, even if I don't plan to go into BME? And then part 2 is, what other classes would be recommended if I decide not to take a chemistry course?
Okay, so if you are not a BME major and know that you're not interested in BME, and you have a 4 or 5 on the chemistry AP, then that will satisfy your chemistry requirement, and you do not have to take chemistry. So in lieu of instead of chemistry, I would recommend either EGR 103 or Comp Sci 201, depending on which is best suited for you, as the replacement class. But if you are BME, or if you think you might be BME, you might want to consider still taking chemistry. Again, that might be a specific situation that you can email Pratt Advising and we can give you some pros and cons of what taking or not taking chemistry would mean for your schedule.
Along the same vein, specifically for someone who is looking at BME, specifically pre-health BME, if they receive a 4 or 5 on their AP chemistry exam, how common, and Dean Cooke mentioned it earlier about taking organic chemistry, how common is it for students to take Orgo Chem 1 and 2 their first and second semester?
Well, there is a freshman only, a first year student only section of organic chemistry, Chem 201, in the fall semester. So I would say it's not necessarily uncommon for students to take Orgo in their first semester. We hear from a lot of students who would rather not take Orgo in their first semester. But I believe that this first year section only is helpful to many students because being in such a rigorous class, you are around first year students. I think it's a good way to form community, and you have a community to work with on this very specific rigorous course. A lot of students like to take Orgo 1 and 2 right after another, which means they would then have to take Orgo 2 in their spring semester. There isn't necessarily room in the spring semester, depending on your situation, to take Orgo 2. We have some students who will take Orgo over the summer, if that's an option for them. They'll take Orgo 1 in summer 1, Orgo 2 in summer 2, and just get it out of the way, and that way they're able to take it one right after the other. Everyone kind of handles it differently. I would say we do have some students who take it in the first year. We have some students who take Orgo 1 in the fall, and then they might skip a semester before they're able to take Orgo 2, or they take it over the summer. Feel free to email Pratt-advising, and we can advise you further on that based on your situation.
We have a question. If you have math credit from another institution, for example, multivariable calculus, do you get credit for that? And if so, what would that count for?
So it is possible to get, we call it pre-matriculation credit. If you've taken credit at another institution. There's specific criteria on getting that credit approved. And you can find that on the registrar's webpage. So if you are able to get it approved, then yeah, we would accept it as Math 212, and you would take the next math class, which would be Math 216. We would need to have that approved before you're able to register for Math 216 for the next math class, but it is very possible. I'm looking up the link to the transfer credit. So yeah, it's on the registrar's webpage. Can I email it to you, Nicole? Did you already post it?
You can,
Yes, you could email it to me.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll get it posted for you. But so the forms are on here and the policy as to how to get it approved.
And then along the same vein, do dual credit classes taken at my high school through a local college count for transfer credit?
They do not. It's possible it could count for placement credit, so we could still evaluate the course, and you could possibly place into a higher level course, but then you would still need to take replace what you're skipping, I guess, for lack of a better word, with another credit. So we can't count it for credit, but we could potentially count it for placement.
Okay. And we only have time for a few more questions. If you have any last minute burning questions, be sure to write them in real quick. Our next one is, the handbook provides a list of departments that are considered SSH, but how do I know which category the class I take falls under?
Category, probably you're talking about like ALP, CZ, that.
LSS.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you find a class in any one of those departments and you click on it to open up the description, if it falls under the category, I believe it's listed under class attributes. you'll see if it's an ALP, if it's a CZ, or if it's an FL. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. We're happy to confirm any class that yes, it will count or no, it won't. And I say it can be a little tricky because let's say a course like psychology, we do recognize the psychology department and we accept those courses in the SSH. But if it doesn't have an SS code on the class, like there are some psychology classes that don't have an SS code attached to it, we would not count it as an SSH. Another example of what I'm referring to are, like let's say global health. Trinity College, I believe, recognizes global health as a social science humanities. Maybe some global health classes have SS codes attached to them. Pratt does not accept global health courses as a social science humanities. So there's some nuances to it. For the most part, any one of those classes anyone from that list of departments, and then as long as it also has a code attached to it, and you can find that under class attributes. Again, we're happy to confirm any class of yes, it will count and no, it doesn't count, because we know it can be confusing sometimes.
All right. If I plan on testing out of chemistry and I did not qualify for writing 101, what should I take as my fourth class, assuming the other three are a math, EGR 101, and EGR 103?
So one thing, students who were not selected for writing in the fall, if you're not a focus student, once the drop add period begins, after that second window closes, you're able, if there is an open writing section, you're able to register for it. So it might be possible to still take writing in the fall, even if you're not slated for writing. And again, if you're not a focus student also. So if there's an open spot, you can take it, and that can be your fourth class. I guess it would depend on your major. I would recommend emailing Pratt-Advising and let us know what your major is, or at least what you're interested in if you're not certain, and we can start a dialogue on what would be your best option for your fourth class.
Do you have to join a focus group?
You do not. That is, I believe even the applications are closed and everyone has been selected. So I don't think there's an opportunity to join a focus group now, but that is completely voluntary.
Great. I think that's all of the questions that are up to date now. And respecting that we do have just a couple minutes left, do you have any lasting advice or tips that you'd like to leave everyone with?
I would say, sometimes this registration process can be a little nerve-wracking and confusing. But I would say, hang in there, read your resources, read your Blue Book, the registration tab and the academics tab. You can look at our first year advising webpage, and then you can always email questions to us at Pratt-Advising. We try to answer those within 2 business days. So we can be helpful that way, but I would say, we'll help you. If things get confusing or if you're not able to find classes that work together in a schedule that works, contact us and we will help you, we'll work with you, and we'll make sure that you get the classes that you need. I would say have fun this summer. It's going to go by really fast, and we are really looking forward to meeting you in August.
And we did have two questions squeak in at the end, so real
Okay.
quick. When is an advisor assigned to a student?
That will be in probably early August.
And the last one is, when do departments close for the summer?
So departments are kind of open. Of course, people take vacations. This is the perfect time to take vacations. If you can't reach somebody, I would say contact Pratt-Advising, and we'll try and connect you with whoever you're trying to reach or get you information that you're looking for. But for the most part, departments are open, but it is scarce at sometimes if people are away on vacation.
They'll usually be operating, but maybe at an abbreviated or shortened schedule. But we're still here. Still working.
We are here.
For you. So thank you, so much to you all for joining us. Thank you, students, for asking all of your great questions. If there was something that you would like more clarity on or details about, or if there were things we weren't able to get to, please reach out. There are folks on campus that are here to support you. They want to see you succeed, and they want to make sure that you have your answers. So please reach out to us. We truly, truly mean that. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for asking your questions, and we will see you soon. We'll see you in August.
Yay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.